In today's episode, we're chatting all about female friendships because they are one of the most powerful, complicated, and transformative relationships we experience. Welcome to the Feeling Good podcast with Alex and Sam. Welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where food and fitness is all about feeling good. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
And today's episode is a fun one. We thought we could use maybe a little more of a lighthearted subject. Sometimes we're diving into some, deep things when it comes to fitness. But I will say that I feel like talking about friendships, I feel like that definitely is right on par with overall wellness, fitness, health. It's a key part of our life and it's a hopefully pretty big part of our life.
Well, they do say that women tend to live longer due to their close female friends. Like having close connections with your friends is something that can help you live a longer life. So I think it really connects to the theme of our podcast as a whole.
Yeah, I have heard that women do tend to live longer. I didn't know it was because of friendships though. Is that really what it is?
I mean, there's probably so many contributing factors. I think women are more risk adverse. We're a little bit more, we're less risk takers than men might be a part of it, but also when you're married, men tend to live longer because they have a woman in their life who's helping them out.
It's like we are life. Oh my god, we're life. Women are life.
Women are the tastemakers, the biggest contributors. We kind of dominate everything.
And I fully believe that.
Facts. Before we get started, you did mention before we started the podcast that you stopped off out of home, you grabbed a meal or a snack, and I wanted to know what it was because I'm super nosy and I love to know these things.
Well, you are the one who actually introduced me to to the oh my I always call it just panini grill, but I think it's like panini
Oh,
kebab grill or something. You introduced me to that place last year. Oh, maybe last year now. I don't know, a while ago now. And since then, it has become an absolute staple. When you need something that or for people who don't know, if you don't have one around you, I think it might be just only around here. I actually maybe not. Maybe it's around the country. I have no idea. But it's
Greek food. So you have kebabs, you have, I mean, the best hummus and pita that you could get around. Like it's just so good. They have so many great things, but really the highlight for me, and I think you get the same thing too, is the kebabs. I love the chicken. I think you also get the steak.
so good. And it's one of those meals where you're like, okay, I want to eat out. I don't want to cook, but like I want to feel good after. And you feel great. It's a salad, it's a kebab, it's rice. That's what I normally get. They have a bunch of things, but I got a chicken Caesar salad wrap today.
Oh, and how did it stack up to chicken Caesar salad wraps that you've had at other places?
Okay, this is not like one of the ones that we've had, which is like going viral on TikTok, and it's like this stacked Caesar salad wrap. It doesn't compare to some of like the viral ones, but it was great because they do something over there where their chicken is the most moist chicken I've ever had in my life. Chicken can sometimes be horribly dry, and theirs is fantastic.
It's just not something that I can do at home, which is really what I'm looking for when I go out to eat is, are you doing it better than I can do at home? Because if you're not, you won't catch me spending my money there again.
It's a big Friday night meal that like we do take out over there for us, and that place is I mean, it is jam packed. They clearly everyone loves that place because it is always jam packed with like a ton of takeout orders. Anyways, what did you have before we started recording?
Oh, I just had my usual. I actually had a back to back second breakfast and lunch. So I had my protein, my egg white French toast. And then immediately after, I was still a little hungry slash not ready to be done eating. And so I had a chicken wrap, which was just basically snack wrap vibes. So tortilla, chicken tenders, lettuce, or like more coleslaw vibes with mayo. And then that was it.
And I don't know if you brought a caffeine source, but I'm going to be so real with you. Yesterday, we recorded yesterday too, and it was in the afternoon, and I cracked open an energy drink at that time. And we're talking like later in the afternoon. I didn't fall asleep last night until midnight. And even then, it was like a horrible sleep, and I had to get up at 6:30 today. So that was my own fault.
Miserable. I will admit that I've been maintaining my very high caffeine intake, but I'm also in recovery mode, so I'm taking NyQuil, and so I'm not I'm doing a bad thing, and I'm aware of it, but I'm caffeinating during the day, and then I'm knocking myself out at night. It's not good, but, like, it feels great to just know that you're gonna be out and just knocked out. However, I will say the downside, among probably a variety of things that I can't even begin to understand, is I have the worst dreams when I am taking, like, melatonin, like, big doses of melatonin or, like, NyQuil. I have the worst dreams to the point where, like, I woke up and was like, "Oh, wait, I can choose to not keep thinking about this dream. Like, I can actually not like, this isn't real. I can actually just choose to not to switch up the dream to something else." And then I remembered or I completely forgot what the dream was, so it must have worked.
As your friend, I am always trying to get you to stop taking any sleep aids. I would really like for you to just like completely cut the caffeine back and just get into a great sleepy bedtime routine. But I would really like you to cut it out.
I will work on it for you.
So, speaking of friendship, we did talk about how we met in our Q&A episode. So, that's a little bit of a deeper dive into us meeting, us becoming friends. But we've been friends, just as a background, if you didn't listen to that, we've been friends now for 6 years, and this will maybe give you a little peek into our own dynamic, but also just open up the conversation around adult friendships because that's a whole different ball game, and just, kinda girly pop coded, just friends because like I said, it is a huge part of, I don't know, our overall well-being. So, I'm gonna ask you, when do you think the last time was that you made a new friend? And you've asked me this question one time, and I hated it because I actually had to sit and think, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't know." It's been forever.
The most recent, I would say, even just introductions into my life have been girlfriends of friends
Okay.
that never really fully went into be like, we are friends, like we're friends through friends kind of a thing. I haven't met anyone really that new. I would say neighbors. I don't know if neighbors count because it's almost like, did it make it out of the group chat? Did it make it out
Oh,
of you know what I
okay,
mean?
yeah.
Like, you have those environmental friends or friends of circumstance, and whether or not they break past that initial grouping that they'll fall in, I haven't had anyone really break out of that grouping in a while. Not because I am meeting people all the time and it just never really transitions. It's more so I'm not meeting that many people and I stay within my circle that already exists, and I feel like you're pretty similar in that.
Definitely, and it also does bring up the, I don't know, what is a friend? Like, at what point does it get considered a friend? And sometimes neighbors, they're kind of like they're kind of like when you were back in school and you became really good friends with the person that you sat next to in class, and you called them like
Mhm,
class friends because in no way would you probably ever have really talked the way that you talked except for the fact that you sat
mhm.
by each other in class, and it was so fun, and you would become such good friends, and then maybe never talk again after that class. And that's kind of what a neighbor is.
It is so bizarre that you can like somebody so much and have a great connection, great banter, great everything, and then for whatever reason, you lose touch, or they're just not the friend that's the most consistent throughout your life. I can think of friends like that from high school, from college, from grad school, from every phase of my life. I have friends like that that I look back and I'm like, what a cool person. And we just got along so well from my point of view. And yet we don't stay in touch really at all, if at all. And if they did, or if I did, I think it would be fine. I think that we would be able to have a nice light conversation, but for whatever reason, it's not happening.
I definitely think that's a little bit different than friends of because of proximity. Like because you worked with them. You're like, do we actually have a lot in common or are we just in this same
Mm.
place? Like I go to a yoga class and maybe you're always next to the same person in yoga. And it's like they're kind of like your yoga friend, but nothing has evolved past that. And I feel like as an adult, that's kind of where a lot of relationships just stop. It's like you see your neighbor, maybe you do become close to your neighbor. A lot of people do. But it's that friendly hi. It's the one you see at the gym all the time. It's the people that are just kind of like in your orbit of things that you do, but doesn't actually like evolve any more than that. If I told you that you had to go move to a different city and you had to go make a friend, like where would you start?
Well, it definitely wouldn't be at the club or any form of, like, drinking area, like, that's just not something that I really entertain or do or indulge in, so it would probably be, going on my walks, going to a run club maybe,
That's a good idea.
joining a new gym, and I feel the same way about dating, like, I'm not gonna meet my future partner at a bar, most likely, so opening myself up to those areas and honestly, maybe even Facebook groups.
Okay, I really like the run club idea. I mean, obviously, if you were into running, don't join a run club if you absolutely never want to run again, because it'd be the same thing as Sam going to a club. It just doesn't make sense. But you and I went to a run club once, like near here, and there were hundreds of, I don't know if there were hundreds. Would you say there were hundreds of people?
Yeah.
It was huge.
Which I think is great because there's so many more options for you to meet people, but also we went together and we were like so like together. We're like no new people, no new friends. So it's super intimidating, especially as you get older, because people really do get locked into their friends. And it reminds me, have you ever heard of Dunbar's theory or Dunbar's number?
I feel like I have. Tell me.
So I looked it up, or I want to give you like the actual thing.
Okay.
Dunbar's number essentially suggests that we can only have 5 best friends at a time. So if the table's already full, then interweaving your way into new relationships gets hard. And that's kind of what I was thinking about with even a run club situation is you show up, let's say, with a best friend and you have your long distance best friend or you have your core group already established. And I think that that is a little bit more set as you get older.
Okay, I actually don't think I've ever heard of that, or at least I didn't retain the information, but I kind of believe it. It would be really hard to maintain more than 5 best friends.
So, let me give you the full overview because it is very interesting. There's a cognitive limit around 150 people that you can be friends with. And then the circle gets smaller. So you have 35 good friends, 15 close friends, and then 5 best friends. So you have these tiers and people can move in and out of tiers. Maybe it takes a couple years for someone to go from being a close friend to a best friend, right? So there's constant movement between the tiers, but ultimately, cognitively, you have a limit on what you can retain at one period of time, which does make sense because, I mean, we are social animals. And essentially, at the root of it all, we were in communities of, let's say, up to 300 people. So even knowing anything beyond 300 people is probably not something that cognitively we can withstand. So this whole modern world is already a crazy environment for us to try to exist in, but when you boil it down to friendships, let's say you already have your 5 best friends. Is there room for 6? Can you cognitively handle adding on an extra person? Or is somebody else going to have to fall out of that best friend category for a new person to come in? and how much harder does that get as you get older?
Well, I'm gonna be so real with you. I don't even think I know 150 people.
You definitely do.
I'm not so sure.
I bet we could just go to your actually, you don't have one. I have, like, a personal Instagram as well as, like, a business Instagram. So if I go to my personal Instagram, that number definitely falls within, I mean, it surpasses that. It's crazy how many people you actually know, whether you call them a friend or not is a different
Okay.
situation.
Well, that's right. Okay. I guess I know them, but I guess I don't know if I definitely don't have 150 friends. We'll just say that. uh, okay. Are you someone who, and you guys can weigh in the comments because I would love to hear. I heard other people talking about this on another podcast. And it was, are you someone who calls multiple people your best friend? Or are you like there's a best friend and then there's just friends?
I don't think that there's just one necessarily. No, I don't feel very strongly about that at all. Do you?
Maybe not so much now as an adult, but as a kid, yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, I had actually like this dependence on my best friend to where we had to be separated in the second grade because I wouldn't learn how to tie my shoes because I would just have my friend Brenna do it for me. And so they literally separated us in elementary school because I was so dependent on her, but I'm sure it worked both directions.
So, yeah, as a kid, I definitely saw it as like best friend and then friends. As an adult, I see though that friendship dynamics just change as you get older. Obviously, you have other priorities. So, spending all of your time with friends isn't something that you're doing as much as you definitely were when you were younger. And it actually is kind of sad in some ways when you think about it because you used to spend so much time with your friends, which is like the best time on earth. That is like some of my, which I recently found out about you, which was you didn't do that many sleepovers.
No, not really. I mean, yes, there were sleepovers, but no in high school. You did a lot in high school and I did not. That was like elementary. And then the only sleepovers we had in high school were related to sports, those kind of like bonding nights. Maybe there were a couple here and there, but it was not a thing.
Those are some of my best memories, sleepovers, and definitely did it through high school. Why would you wanna spend your weekend not with your friends? It was truly
Yeah.
hands down the best time, and I understand that, like, times are changing, and I actually think that sleepovers are becoming, like, a little bit less and less because you don't know what other people are doing in their own homes, but at the time, that wasn't quite it wasn't as big of a worry, and I spent all of my time at sleepovers, and I just thought that was so crazy that you didn't.
Well, what's interesting too is I think we would both align on this. So, elementary school, I definitely had a best friend. And then middle school, high school, it became friend group.
Mhm, yeah.
And then after that, same thing, friend group, but now that I'm getting older, my relationships are much more one-on-one and less group hangy, which I prefer because, and I've mentioned this before, like, I don't love a group hang necessarily, like, sometimes, but I like that one-on-one connection, and it's really hard to do that for me in, like, a group setting.
I agree. Way less and less group friend settings. That's for sure. Think about all your friends that you have, I would say, consistent contact with. What do you think some characteristics or traits that they kind of all have in common or that you tend to like find in a friend or like in a friend?
It's so broad for me to just say a good person,
Yeah,
but
that
I'm
is.
really I'm really drawn to just really good people, and when I look at my group of friends from all the different phases of my life, that is what I would say is, like, the underlying thing is true, just genuine, kind-hearted, thoughtful, every single one of them that I look back on, even if we're not in close contact anymore, they would come pick you up at the airport, like, they're those friends who'd be like, "Oh, you're getting at 4 a.m.? Bet, like, I will come pick you up," or, they'll make time for you in their busy schedules, whether they have kids or whatever, they're gonna make the time, they're gonna put in the effort, and it might not be as consistent as when they had less on their plate, but I would say that's the underlying theme in my friendships, or what I look for and what I'm drawn to is just really good, kind-hearted people who I guess also inspire me to wanna be that way as well. What would you say on your side of things?
I mean, yes to all of that. Like, I think that a lot. I think that most people look at their friends and say that they're like a good person, and I don't mean that. I mean, like they're there for you. It's kind of what you're saying. Is like that those people are always there for you. I think I also like a friend where you can have like a serious conversation with. Like we've had our fair share of many, many, many serious conversations. But also, I want to be able to have the dumbest conversation too. Like, and I want to beat a dead horse so bad. I want to talk about the same thing 50 times so that I can come at it 25 different angles and just make sure that I've
Mhm.
really covered it.
And if you say something, it's not going to be judged. I guess is kind of like a part of that too, because I think I've said so many things to you being like, that's probably not what I meant. But I think that you get that that's not maybe what I meant. And then we'll talk about it, but you wouldn't be like, ooh, cringe.
No, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't wanna be friends with somebody who's judgmental of things that I'm saying, like, that's not gonna work for me. It needs to be a judgment-free zone because I don't know what's coming out of my mouth at that, next second.
Well, and I think that's what separates a best friend from a really good friend. So if we're going from that Dunbar's number and we say 5 best friends, 15 really good friends, that I think is what separates those 2 categories, at least for me, is I might have these 15 really good friends, but maybe there's certain topics we can't really dive into because there might be a little bit of collision, judgment, or just not on the same page on certain things, which I think is a very common thing that's starting to happen with our political climate and just the way the world's kind of working these days. But that is what I would say separates my best friends from that really, really good friend.
I think that that's definitely happening. Do you think that friendships they often say this about, like, relationships, but do you think with friendships, they require work, or should they be easy breezy, beautiful, cover girl?
I guess a little bit of both. Maintaining friendships, especially when your life gets so full of other things, kids, partners and relationships,
Work.
work obligations. It does take a certain level of, oh, I was thinking about you today. And so I'm going to text you and just check in and see how you're doing. I think one thing that I've really made an effort to do more of is literally that of if I'm thinking about you, I want you to know. And I think that helps keep you connected with people is just reaching out and being that person. I don't know how many friends survive if both people just simply stop talking in a long distance relationship. If you're not living in the same area, which a lot of my friends from high school, college, we don't live in the same area. The only way, and actually, because of social media, I think it's much easier to feel a false sense of closeness to those friends, and it does take effort to leave the social sphere and reach out and say, "Hey, thinking about you," or "Hey, saw this story. How freaking cute is your child?" Right? It takes that level of effort, which isn't a lot, but it goes a really long way, I think, with the modern world to stay more closely connected and to help people feel your presence even when you're not in close proximity.
Yeah, you're really good about that. I feel like you're good about checking in or sending a quick text. And I wouldn't say I'm as good at it. Something that my friends and I will do, it's just like, an old picture pops up and you just like send that in the group chat or you just like send that to the person. You have a quick little laugh and you're like, oh my God, don't ever send me that picture again. But like that's a real easy one to do. I really appreciate a friendship that can withstand just like a quick pop in. We have a little haha. Like this morning, my friend texts me, it's a picture of her and I as kids, and I just said I responded like, "OMG, stop." Like, so cute. And then she like hearted the message. And that's it. Like it didn't need to be any more than that, but it's like that quick bid for connection that I think helps those like long distance relationships or just like the old childhood friendships uh, stay around.
Yeah, it's tough. I've never been the person that had expectations necessarily in friendships where I texted somebody and expected a long reply, or I called someone and they called me back. I genuinely don't have those types of expectations. And I think it comes from me just wanting, well, I actually think it's not a great quality to have, but in relationships, I like to put a lot out there and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like, "Oh, I am doing the most in this relationship, and it's okay if you're not." Because I am, and I feel good about my effort in this, and if you don't respond or reply, that's totally fine. I actually don't feel any certain way about it because I know everyone's busy and everyone's got a lot going on, and who am I to judge what I don't know or can't see or don't understand? And I know my side of the street is clean or like I'm taking care of my shit, right? In this relationship and that makes me feel good and I'm actually totally fine with that because you'll get back to me when you can or not. And that is what it is.
You and I have had that conversation before, and you're like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm a better person because I remember your birthday." Like, because you have it in your phone for people's birthday, and you'll send a text, and you don't expect to respond back. You're just like, "Well, yeah, I am better than you. I do remember your birthday, and I did my part." Is basically kind of what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think that there's
Yeah.
an admirable trait to that. Like that, there's like two sides to every coin. There's like a good thing and possibly who knows maybe a bad thing if you're just doing it selfishly, which you're not. But I
Right.
was going to give you a compliment that I was going to give later, but you are good about sending like a text of, and this goes back to you not expecting like anything in return, but you are good about sending a text of like, had the best time. That was so great. Can't wait to do that again. Like, so glad we did it, blah, blah, blah. You're really good at that. That doesn't even pop in my head to do something like that, but you're really good at that.
Well, and we've had similar conversations before where you're like, but what if they don't respond? Or what if they don't say what I want them to say? And then it makes me feel a certain way. I think you just carry a little bit more anxiety about other people and their response or their reception of things, maybe if that's what it is, where I don't. Like, my thought goes as far as I'm going to do this the end. And you're like, I'm going to do this. And then what if they say this? Or what if they take it like this? And that's a big difference between
Well,
you and
I
I
I
for
feel
sure.
like that's a little bit normal the way I'm thinking, but in my specific scenarios without getting into it, it was like I was putting myself out there in a place to possibly get
Mhm.
rejected, and that was very scary. I was talking more about you just like sending to me after we do something or we go on a trip and you just send this like appreciation text. You're really good about vocally like being appreciative, and I'm
Mhm.
assuming you do that to all your friends when you hang out, but I'm like, "Oh, she's really good at that." I don't even think to do that. But maybe that's your love language.
I would actually say words are not my love language at all. But then again, it is something like if someone sends me a text that's like, hey, so glad we got to do that. That would make me feel really good. And if I'm feeling something, I want to express it, especially when it comes to relationships in my life, because I do value them so heavily. And it really stems from losing somebody early in my 20s. My To open up a can of worms, my best friend, basically brother, growing up, we grew up Christmas together, Christmas morning, Christmas Eve. We did spring break together, our families. We were very close, and he was in a boating accident in 2015 and did not survive. And it changed me so significantly, but the biggest way it changed me was my perception of relationships and showing up for the people that you love and making sure that everyone knows how you feel and not leaving any loose ends because also like at his service the way that people showed up for that was a reflection of how much he showed up for other people, and it was really admirable, and it was something that we all collectively were, I guess, celebrating him about, or we were all collectively saying the same thing about him, Tyler, who passed away, which was that he was a great leader, a great coach, a great friend. Like, he really showed up for people, and so in knowing him and in losing him, it's something that I have embraced and tried to integrate into all of my relationships because it was a lesson learned from just his impact on myself and then also other people. And so yeah, that's something that I try to do very intentionally is if I'm thinking about you, if I'm feeling any sense of gratitude for an experience or a moment or a conversation, I want you to know. And I probably won't say it in person, but I will definitely text you later and say so.
You do a good job of making it known just, like, what you're feeling, and you've told me that too, like, when I had those conversations with you of, like, "I'm gonna send this, possibly get rejected." It was like, well, it's better that you just put it out there of what you want them to know, and that's for the best.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting conversation to be had because sometimes too you'll be like, "But is that for you or is that for the other person?" And we've talked about this probably we've beat the dead horse. Uh I very much function from like I want to say this thing. I want you to know this. And you're like, "But what if they don't want to hear it?" Or what if and those are just not thoughts that I have in relationships.
Okay, like, put the connection together. No, we've definitely had these conversations of like, yeah, well, no, I do think that is a big part of it. I do think you have to be able to read the other side of like, is this for me or for them? And then make the right decision. But yes, you do a very good job of being intentional with showing appreciation, which I do not. So that's why I thought maybe words of affirmation were your love language. But what do you think you are? Quality time?
Acts of service, I think, because I'm so hyper independent. When somebody does something, for me, I'm like, "Oh my god, what?" It's the best. I also wanna know this ties into relationships, whether it's, like, friend relationships or intimate relationships, but well, is that the right word? Intimate relationships? I don't know. Anyway, are you anxious or avoidant or secure?
I was just thinking about this because I probably listened to the episode that you listened to a podcast on Armchair Expert where
Okay.
they had the author of Attachment or whatever the book is called that's so popular, which is like Attachment Theory. That book is so, 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 so popular. I'm sure you've
Mhm.
heard it, whether you've read it or not. I've not read it, but I've of course heard it and everyone talks about it. They had that author on because he has a
Mhm.
new book coming out. I, as an anxious person, probably lean towards anxious more than I would like to. I do feel as I'm getting older, I become more secure. So I lean definitely anxious. I'm definitely not avoidant.
No. And what reminded me of this categorization, which we could even dissect each of those in case anyone's curious, but what it reminded me of this was if I text someone and they don't respond, like I'm actually very okay with it. Whereas I think if you texted someone, you would be a little bit less chill with it. You'd be like, "Why didn't they text me? Do
Oh,
they
for
hate
sure.
me?" And that's more of your anxious attachment. I would say me with texting, more secure attachment, if not more avoidant attachment.
Can go ahead and say that's secure, but a little bit of that is being avoidant. Like, I did my part. That's great. I don't have to do anything back for it. Like, it's just it's done. So I would say though, as I get older, I'm definitely more secure. And from what I heard from that podcast, like it can be different in different relationships and different just like seasons of your life.
Do you wanna go over the attachment styles?
Sure, go ahead. If you just want to give people a rundown.
So The reason I think attachment style is relevant to this conversation is kind of what you were saying previously when we talked about, or you shared what you appreciate in a relationship is you can text and have a little bit of banter, but it doesn't have to be this constant thing. There's no judgment or expectation of this is what I need in a relationship. And it's, texting 3 times a week or a phone call once a week. There aren't these huge expectations on these relationships. Now, that could just be for that category of friend. But if you're someone who, if someone isn't responding or isn't texting you frequently, maybe your attachment style is what's allowing you or making you feel a certain way about that relationship when the other person doesn't have that same perception because they have a different attachment style. So, there are 4 types of attachment styles. Be thinking of which one you think you associate the most with, and actually you can go on Google and you can take a quiz. We're not gonna take the quiz, but we will go through the different attachment styles. So the first is secure, confident in relationships, comfortable with intimacy, and able to rely on others. Number 2 is anxious, preoccupied, often insecure, fearful of rejection, and highly dependent on partners for validation. So that's anxious, preoccupied. The third is dismissive, avoidant, emotionally distant, self reliant, and uncomfortable with intimacy. And then there's fearful, avoidant, which is a mix of wanting intimacy but fearing it, leading to confusing behaviors in relationships. Which of those would you say you most associate with?
I feel like now as I'm getting older, I definitely feel very secure, but I lean anxious in some ways.
I would say I'm in between dismissive avoidant and
Oh.
fearful avoidant. I'm not quite sure on the big difference between the two. I guess from the description, it sounds like wanting intimacy but fearing it versus just being completely
Mm.
emotionally distant is the difference. And it's confusing to me because I think I have a lot of friends that I'm able to be emotionally like invested and intimate with. Like I can share my deepest, darkest thoughts and feelings. But when it comes to like a partner in dating, I think I am more fearful of that intimacy and or avoidant or distant with it. I guess long story short, I don't know. Someone in the comments diagnose me, label me.
I feel like since I just turned 30, I'm entering a new decade, getting older, and I know we started it off by talking about adult friendships, but this is really I mean, yes, it happens in your 20s. I guess it really just depends on the friend group. It could happen in your 20s, but I feel like for me, it'll be like more 30s. Obviously, people are starting to like pivot in different ways. People are getting married, having kids, like things are just starting to veer off where everyone's going in different ways or at different times. And so life is at different stages for all the people around you. And I know you have a lot of friends who already have kids. How do you navigate that when you're in a different place than your friend? And do you let that friendship go or like I mean, what happens?
I will say it's a choice because I do have a friend and we've spoken about another friend of hers that has pretty much chosen not to continue the friendship because she's so uninterested in her kid being around. And that's not my approach at all. I see all of my friends' kids as extensions of them. And I know that when I'm in those relationships or when I'm with that friend, we're probably going to talk about your kid a lot. And I'm super cool with that. I want to, like, if you're hyped up on your life choices, that's super cool. I am so intrigued and interested in that. I also love childhood development and like child psychology and what makes us us and parental dynamics. Like I'm so interested in the psychology and what happens to you and what makes you you as you get older. So I'm really interested in the whole child thing and parenting thing. So I think I can connect with friends who have kids by just investing in like those types of conversations because I am genuinely interested in it. But if you don't have that interest and you show up to a coffee date with a friend and they have their kid and it's a distraction, or all they want to do is talk about their kid, or you feel they're not asking you enough questions, I can understand how you might not want to continue investing in that relationship. I totally understand. But for me, I enjoy continuing to nurture those relationships. I think that they're really important for both sides of the relationship. I think it's super valuable for me to see my friends go through these things, especially if I'm entertaining the idea of having kids, getting married, and doing all of that. I think the inside scoop is so valuable. But I also think it's great for my friends who have kids and who are married to step outside of that and see beyond their what's right in front of their faces as well. But I don't know, I think that it is a choice ultimately, like who you maintain friendships with, and tying it back to what you asked prior of, you know, I guess like how much effort does it take, or what does it take to maintain a relationship, and is it work? And I think all relationships ultimately
I
are.
think to the flip side of that, the people who are childless and they go out to the coffee date with the mom who brought her kid or her kids. And the only thing she's talking about is her kids because that's her life and that is totally cool and that's totally fine. Sometimes as the childless person, you're like, "Hi, do you care about anything I do anymore?" I think that's how it can really feel. Is like, "That's cool. Like, so happy to talk about your kid. This is really great. Love your kid to death. Love your kid." But also you're my friend and you met up with me for
Mhm.
coffee. It would be great to have this at like a reciprocal conversation where you asked me a question back. And I think that's where the dynamic really starts to change. If you just feel like we're not connecting anymore. And that's not to say that that's either person's fault. I think it's just what can happen. Not saying it's what does happen, but it absolutely can happen.
Here's my maybe my issue, or just I don't know, this is me. I Like I said with, like, the texting, I think I want to give in relationships, ultimately, I think is what it comes down to, like, I want to give, I want to leave a hang, I want to leave a dinner, a happy hour, a conversation, and I want that other person to feel really good and to feel like they enjoyed that conversation, or that they also had a good time. And maybe that's my insecurity as well, of being like, am I bringing value to this dynamic? I think ultimately is a piece of it is like that insecurity that I have of wanting to be liked, wanting to be loved, wanting to be valued. And so when I'm even in those dynamics, like I want to be the release or the relief from maybe some of the stressors of your life. I'm not looking for that in other people. Maybe I need it sometimes, and it's hard for me to ask for that in any relationship, but I'm much more wanting to like ask the questions than get asked the questions. And I don't think that that's everybody at all, but I'm curious how you fall into that dynamic, like where you think you would
Yeah, this is
fall.
actually like a bone I've picked with you is I feel like you give, 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 give in these scenarios and sometimes I'm like, dude, you gotta pull back a little bit. But also the scenario I gave was hypothetical. I have no like friends in my immediate circle that are bringing kids to a coffee shop. I've actually never encountered that scenario. I only have a few mom friends and they're long distance and it's like not the bringing the kid to a coffee shop is not a thing that's happening. So it was completely made up scenario, but I do feel like it is a scenario that women around my age are probably starting to encounter with their friends. And It's just a hard dynamic, but for you, yeah, I feel like number 1, you're a deeply curious person, which I applaud you for. You ask so many questions. I've seen you do it just going to a random birthday party and you're talking to someone and there goes Sam asking a million questions. She's really good at doing that. She's like deeply curious, which not everybody is. I don't even know if I consider myself to be deeply curious.
I would.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. But do you think that when you outgrow a friendship, it needs to be like outwardly said?
Nope, Irish exit 10 times out of 10. Just let it fade. I'm okay with there being a slow just mm, leaving the relationship, or and maybe you don't even know that it's the end, right? Like you had your last hangout.
I think that is the part of like outgrowing where you're like, oh, we haven't talked in so long. And then it's like, oh, we haven't talked in years. And I guess that answers the question of it just naturally fizzles out.
The really hard one is the best friend breakup. And that's where this is somebody that you did trust with all of your secrets. You have a closeness, and something happened. Maybe they shifted their core beliefs, and now you no longer align on things you used to align on. So when you talk about certain things, there's more collision than there is connection. This probably has happened a lot to a lot of people. That is what happens as you get older, right? You start to change as a person, and you're not always going to change in the same direction as all of your friends. That's a big ask to think that you're all going to be moving in the same direction. And so I do think it's normal in your 20s to have those big friend breakups where you're losing somebody that used to be your best friend. And maybe there's an event, maybe it's a slow exit, a slow Irish exit.
Well, I mean, I had a friendship breakup, and since then we have rekindled. So that was a big twist for me that I'm so happy about. But it was less about like us having different views on things and like growing apart. It was like a thing. And you're 20, 21, and your frontal lobe hasn't
Mhm.
developed and you have no idea how to handle conflict or have a conversation and communicate. Luckily, I got older and realized, oh, I have words now. I know how to communicate. Let me try. And I did, and I tried, and it was for the better. And I'm so, so, so grateful I did. So, anyways, just keep that in mind if you've been thinking about it because it was on my mind for all those years of like I would love to reach out. I would love to reach out, but I don't think that I don't think they want me to. And then eventually I was like, I have to do it for me. Like, I have to just know for me. So I did. And that's what happens when your brain develops and you get close to 30 and you're like, "Oh, you know what? I have developed my my communication skills a little bit. I'm going to put myself out there." So if you have had a friendship breakup, I don't know, just keep that in mind that it doesn't, you grow. You grow and you learn and you're like, oh, "Okay, maybe I will reach out to them." I don't know, friendships can be hard because you're just two stubborn people sometimes. So, I would say between you and I getting to like present
Mhm.
day friendships, do you feel like I've asked you this question before, but you can answer it again. We're more similar or more different?
My initial reaction is that we're more similar than we are different. And I think that's actually what allows us to be so close, is because we do share a lot of the same morals, values, whether that's health related or otherwise. I think that at the core, we're very similar, but we're also on opposite ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways. Like you're anxious attachment more, and I'm more avoidant. Like there are certain things in how our brains work that is very different. But I do think fundamentally we are very similar. And sometimes I think it's easier to pick up on the differences because there seems to be so many, and it's easier to think about those things. But I do think that at the core of it, the reason we're such good friends is because we share a lot of the same interests and values.
Yeah, the core things like your morals and values and ethics and all of that, I do think have to be pretty similar. Otherwise, it'd be probably pretty hard
Mhm.
to sustain that. I do think you're very much a planner, which I appreciate because that means when I'm around, I don't have to plan. and I really appreciate that.
I think we really balance each other out in a lot of ways. I've said this before, but you help quiet some of like my noise when it comes to, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing this better. I'm not doing this well enough. Like you help counter a lot of those thoughts that I have because you're so balanced and you're so chill on a lot of things where I'm not chill. And so I really appreciate and value that about you. And, also, being someone who's a little bit more type A, it wouldn't work if we were both planning a trip and we both had really stubborn and, detailed ideas of what needed to happen or what we should do.
Sam feels very strongly about her opinions.
I generally think I'm right.
Like, I don't care about the things you care about, so it works out perfectly. I'm like, "Oh, great, wonderful, couldn't care less if we go do this." I 100% feel very strongly about my opinions because I do feel most of them are right. Luckily, the things that I feel right about, I feel you agree on, so it's perfect.
Right, and I do think, like, when I think of a friendship, I wouldn't say breakup, like, maybe someone was in that closer friends circle of mine and they've kinda dropped into a lower tier. I think some of those quote unquote breakups, reductions are just misaligning on things, being too dissimilar to where we would butt heads more on certain topics. And I do think that in a really healthy relationship, you should be able to talk about hard things and align a lot of those things too, and if you don't, I mean, I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think if you don't align, I don't know very many relationships, friend or otherwise, where each person has a completely different take on something that's important to them.
We don't really argue. Like, that's not really a thing that happens. We have had some moments of like whatever, a heated thing, but I do think we do a good job of. I specifically remember, a few months ago when I was a little harsh on something and I was like, I shouldn't have like handled that like that. But you can do the same thing on your end and quickly be like, yeah, like I was a little bit of a bitch on that in that moment. I think you need to, or at least to me, it's important to be able to just like get that out of the way really quickly and just be like, yeah, no, let's handle that differently next time versus just pretending and like, being passive about it.
Listen, this just reminded me of, and I've told you this super embarrassing story about me before, but I used to be so non-confrontational and so unable to look someone in the face and say something like admit my wrongs or whatever. I was with a boyfriend and we were having a really hard conversation of like, are we dating? Are we not dating? And I couldn't look him in the face. I had a blanket over my head because I couldn't look him in the fucking face. I think I stayed silent. I was so just unable. This was in high school, so don't judge me too harshly. I remember, and this is something that I probably hadn't thought of in like a decade, in years. And for whatever reason, it came back into my memory. And I remember telling you about it not that long ago, but it just was a reminder of how difficult it was for me to have hard conversations, and obviously as you get older and you grow in maturity and understanding and you learn conflict resolution, I mean, it's something that I certainly didn't have when I was in high school that I think I've
I
developed.
don't know a single person in high school who had conflict resolution skills. Like that's just not happening. I probably would have done the same thing.
But maybe you're a mom and you're listening to this and you're like, "How am I gonna teach my child conflict resolution?" And listen, I think that's a great idea.
Well, yeah.
Or model it in your relationship.
Yeah, you wanna know what I've heard? If you have kids, that kids see their parents fight, a lot maybe, but they never see them resolve
Mhm.
it, and that is the part that they're missing, is the seeing
Yeah,
the end of the fight and, like, how it gets
yeah.
resolved, and that's quite literally conflict resolution. So I've seen that, like, if you do get into a fight in front of your kids, you also resolve it in front of your kids so that they can model or, like, learn it, I guess. Okay, let's end with some
Okay.
quick friendship questions. Number 1, do you think that well, I guess we already answered this, but you can go ahead. Do you think that you're the one to text first in a friendship?
Yeah, I do. Whoa, wait, whoa, wait. How many unread texts do you have currently and or emails?
Okay, texts, I have 330 unread texts.
330?
Yeah. What do you have?
Oh my god. 12, which is a lot for me, but also bringing it back, yin and yang, balance.
This goes back to you being really good about sending, like, appreciative texts to people, and if you're that friend in the friend group, God love you because that's so nice for you to do. Something I do appreciate with our friendship, and other people will either have this or not, we are both often late to whatever it is we're doing, so it works out perfectly. You'll be like, "10 more minutes," and I'm like, "Perfect," because I was not ready. I need 10 more minutes. Always, always. But some people cannot stand that. So luckily it works out between us.
I know. And it's I think people feel really extremely in either direction of like, take your time, it's not that big of a deal, or you think my time is worthless and you're wasting my time. And I obviously don't feel that way. You obviously don't feel that way. And again, if I'm there early, I won. I'm like, I don't care because I was here first. I would feel bad if I had someone waiting for me. But I wouldn't care if someone was late on me, if that makes sense. Do you feel that way?
No, I would never want to purposely show up late to something. And when I have an appointment, I am like, God, you cut it so close. It is so crazy. But like I give myself ample time, I feel, but you cut it so close.
I've started to get better about this, okay? But you're right. So here's what just happened recently. I'll be like, okay, I have this appointment, and I'm gonna go to the gym first, and then I'm gonna go to the UPS store, and I'll arrive perfectly on time as long as traffic is exactly what GPS tells me that it is, and I'll be perfectly on time. But I've started to try and be a little bit less that way. So, you'll be proud to know. I guess, like, as a closing remark, let's say you're someone who is struggling with adult friendships, female friendships. What would your advice be if you're struggling, you have a hard time finding them? Let's say you're moving to a new city. Do you have any advice on I even just how to prioritize that? Because in this modern world, we're so busy with work, we have to work out. We have to do all these things seemingly to get by. What would you say to someone who's kind of struggling to find time for friendships or even just make them a priority and find them? That's a huge question, but any advice would be good.
I like that you said you have to go do the things that you already like to do because then hopefully you meet somebody in those spaces so that you know that you guys have some sort of compatibility. But then the next step you have to take is the hardest step, which is putting yourself out there and possibly being rejected, which, like, I don't really think that anyone would be like, no, I'm not going to, like, no, I'm not going out to coffee with you. I don't feel like that would be like so crystal clear, but you do have to make that first step of like, okay, like I see this person at the run club, I see this person at yoga, and now you need to get, you need to go tell them like how cute their workout set is. That's a really good way in. If somebody came up to me and they were like, I love your outfit, where'd you get it? Great, thank you. A compliment. I'm so grateful for that. And now we can just go into that'd be like an easy way in for me. Do you feel like there'd be like an easy way in for you at the gym or like a yoga class or like the same thing? You'd appreciate it if someone was like, "That's so cute. Where'd you get it?" And then hopefully chat from there.
Yeah, that's gotta be the best. Or I was also thinking about social media. I think a lot of people connect on social media, and I don't know how you feel about that of someone reaching out and being like, "Hey, I think we'd be good friends." You know, that kind of a thing. I think it's so case by case, I think too, because I mean, on some level, that's how we became friends, was we
You're
met
right.
in real life and then connected via social media. So let's say you go to the same gym, you see them, and then you're like, "Oh, they tagged the gym. They're, whatever. I saw your story pop up on the gym's page. Would love to grab a coffee." Or like, "You have incredible energy, love to hang out, blah, blah, blah." Or, "We both like the gym. Let's get a workout in together." I think social media can be a great way to form connections with people who you already have something in common with, but to your point of being okay with rejection, or if someone doesn't see that message, you never see any message, like, you're not, like, so deep in your DMs to where you're gonna see all of them, and not taking it so personally, but also since I just love to talk about the same thing over and over again, uh the Dunbar's number theory, the seats might all be full. Like, there might not be any room in that person's circle to add someone, and that's not a reflection of you at all. You could, in another life, in another situation, be best friends. But if they don't have enough seats at the table to, like, or mental space or physical space, it's, again, not a reflection of you at all, and I think I'm only now willing to, like, accept that, because I would be the person who wouldn't put myself out there for fear of rejection and believing that it was because I am who I am, and someone didn't find me interesting, or they didn't think I was funny, or they didn't think I was XYZ, like, I would have that insecurity.
Going to a club of some sort, like, especially like an all-girl thing, is absolutely one of the best places to start. Our friend started to join this run club this last year, and I did join her for one of them, and it was so fun, and everyone was so lovely and so wonderful, but she has continued to go to it, and she has made some legitimate new friends from going to that. I'm talking like she's gone on a trip with them, like, some good relationships have come out of that. Obviously, taking the first step to join the club is the hardest part, but usually it ends up being so much fun.
I mean, you'll always be rewarded when you put yourself out there and you do something scary. That's why I love travel. Is It's a little bit scary, it's a little bit intimidating, but I grow so much from it. Like, there's so many things that I do that are scary that are always the most rewarding thing. I think for you too, like the marathon or Mount Whitney coming up. Like, those are things that scare you, but you know how rewarding.
Yes, your friends, this brings it all the way back to your friends are a huge part of health and wellness and your overall well-being and feeling good because who you surround yourself with is likely who you start turning into and the things that you start doing, you're likely influenced by them. I probably wouldn't have done the marathon if it weren't for my friends. I
Mhm.
definitely wouldn't be hiking Mount Whitney later this year if it weren't for you guys. So, you know, trying to nurture those relationships that you already do have and be willing to put yourself into new scenarios to meet new friends. And if you're in a situation like me where you maybe had a friendship breakup, maybe willingly put yourself in the scenario to, say you're sorry and let that be known and at least like put it out there so that your feelings can be known and maybe the universe will reward you.
Really bringing it full circle, we have to prioritize human connection.
Oh my God, yes.
It is so easy to just stay online and keep people at arm's length, and I feel it when I'm in Arizona because I'm not as social. I feel my energy's lower, my not just physical energy, but, like, my mental energy is lower. I'm vibrating at a much lower frequency, I guess I would say. But, again, bringing it full circle, I'm Googling the fact here that I brought into the conversation without verification, which is women with strong female friendships live longer, healthier lives due to decreased stress, better cardiovascular health, and increased emotional support when they have those key female friendships. So we have to prioritize them. It's a huge part of feeling good for a really long time.
Especially female friendships, all right? Like, we keep the world going and running.
There's a TED Talk people can reference if they want to really dive into why female friendships are a key to living a longer, healthier life. Who run the world?
Girls who run the world, girls who run this.
That's it for today. Take what you need from this episode, leave the rest, and trust that you're doing better than you think. Thank you for being here. If you like this episode, please rate and review. We'll talk to you soon, but until then, keep feeling good.